in the beginning, when we first moved to Texas, I was 4, and my older sister was 6. We were the oldest 2 children. My dad, for most of my life, was the world's largest producer of onions. Matter of fact, he was on What's My Line as the world's largest producer of chlorets. It was great. And he was very notable in the industry. My dad was asked by 4 or 5 presidents to advise on international agriculture. I remember as a little girl sitting on the sofa at the end of our family area where you would have to come in the garage door to go back and change. And I remember sitting there for long periods of time because I was a daddy's girl, waiting for my daddy to come through, just so I could hop up and get a big bear hug. And then he would take off to change, and then he would take off again out the door. But there were 4 of us children, my older sister, Margie Lynn, and then myself, and then the long-awaited son, Othel Jr., and then my baby sister, Cynthia Lee. If anybody was sick, anybody was dying, my mom was there. I called her when she had 2 terminal diseases and the doctor told her not to leave the house. And I called her and I said, Mom, I've been calling and calling and you've not been home. She said, baby, I was taking food to the sick old people. I said, but Mama, you are the sick old people, you know? But she wasn't ready to be the sick old people up until her death. She was taking flowers to the widows and taking meals to the sick and the elderly. So in both of their ways, in their own ways, they were exceedingly compassionate people. I think the thread through my life, when I was little, it was the stray animal, the horse that couldn't be broken, the little bird that fell from the nest, but always compassion for that vulnerable, that I knew ultimately I would serve children in some capacity. So serving harmed children, hurt children, vulnerable children does take great strength to do. And I knew that I didn't have personal strength, but I believed that I had 2 things. One, I had strength from my faith, and the other, I had the confidence it was my calling. And so I had the confidence that if I were called there, I would have capacity to stay there. And the reality is, people say to me all the time now, how do you bear to go to the Mother Teresa orphanage in Kigali? How do you bear to see a child with horrific abuse in Texas? And we see so much more healing and so much more hope than we do tragedy, that when we're able to take a light into those dark places, it gives us courage to keep going. If I have planted and I have farmed the soil well, those that come after me and after them will be wiser and more well-equipped and more able to continue. If it's personality-driven, then I've misspent my years. So I'm sometimes asked, how was I as a parent? And I will tell you, like every parent whose child is more than 15 minutes old, I have regrets. My children taught me much. My grandchildren have taught me much. I hope that my boys would say, my 3 sons would say, I was loving. I know they would say I was imperfect. I believe they would say I asked forgiveness when I realized, for example, that I brought children into a home that cost them too much for me to foster. I will tell you, one of my sons, my oldest, I asked several years ago, I said, you know, son, I just want to ask you to forgive me for the children that I fostered when you boys needed more time. And he said to me, if I had scripted it, it couldn't have been better. He said to me, Mom, you know, I believe you've asked us to forgive you several times. And as best I recall, we forgave you every time. And he said, I want you to think about this. He said, I know You think you made mistakes as a parent, and I guess you did. But we always knew you'd rather be with us than anywhere in the world.